On an older aircraft carrier, if a catapult fails, it screams. The hiss of steam, the screech of tearing metal, the pilot has a few precious seconds to get clear. But on the Supercarrier USS Gerald R. death comes in absolute silence. The US Navy replaced those loud mechanical valves with digital algorithms. And here is the problem. An algorithm does not scream when it dies. One tiny software glitch, and in 5 microseconds, a $100 million F-35 will turn into 30 tons of scrap metal plummeting straight into the Pacific. Are we evolving, or simply stepping into a cold line of silicon? This change is not merely a technological upgrade, it is a gamble. The US Navy has decided to abandon 60 years of mechanical experience and leap straight into the abyss of digital technology. For half a century, the C-13 steam catapult was the pride of the Cold War. It was crude, loud, and almost impossible to destroy. But to the budget managers at the Pentagon, this was not a weapon. It was a financial bloodsucker. Look at the price. Every time an aircraft is launched, the ship must spray hundreds of liters of pure drinking water into the air. The ship must distill millions of liters of fresh water every year just to feed those pipes. Not for drinking, for launching. Is laced with miles of rusted pipes, forcing hundreds of sailors to spend entire days scraping rust and replacing valves. It is not just violent, it is a machine that literally devours the maintenance budget. That is why the engineers designed a revolution, EMALS. On paper, it is a miracle. No steam, no leaks, no rust. With a single touch on the screen, the system calculates and shoots the aircraft into the sky using precise electromagnetic pulses. But the problem is this: you are trading a mechanical valve for lines of code. With the old system, when it fails, it gives you advance warning, metallic clangs, hissing steam, and the pilot knows to abort. The digital system never warns you. It is perfect, until the moment it dies silently. When you launch a 30-ton iron block at 250 kilometers per hour in 3 seconds, a single small bug in the code is not a delay. It is catastrophe. Go 3 decks below the flight deck. This is no longer a place for glamorous pilots. This is the holding cell of fury. EMALS does not push, it pulls. Imagine taking a standard electric motor, stripping it apart, and flattening it into a 100-meter rail. The system fires a stream of precise electromagnetic pulses milliseconds ahead of the aircraft, as if laying down an invisible magnetic carpet to drag the jet forward. But the ship's electrical grid cannot handle this kind of raw power by itself. Every single launch demands a monstrous electrical slap. If taken straight from the nuclear reactor, the entire vessel would black out instantly. The solution? Flywheels. Under your feet are massive composite steel blocks weighing dozens of tons each, housed in deep vacuum chambers to eliminate air friction. They spin at 6,400 revolutions per minute. This is not electricity storage. This is kinetic energy storage. Down here, the technicians aren't fighting in the air, they're fighting in the dark. They spend grueling 12-hour shifts staring at flickering monitors, monitoring that 6,400 revolutions per minute spin. Down here, it's silence, and the constant, suffocating weight of a terrifying reality. You're living in a submarine, but without the sea. Just the endless, rhythmic hum of spinning steel, and the knowledge that one pop from a bearing will turn this room into a blender. If a single magnetic bearing fails, you are the first to know, and the first to be crushed. You are not standing on a warship. You are standing directly on top of a giant kinetic bomb. The spinning force trying to rip these steel blocks apart into fragments is astronomical. If the metal has a microscopic fracture, or if a magnetic bearing loses power, the rotor shatters at hypersonic speed. The heavy protective casing is built to hold it, but the energy that escapes turns that steel into shrapnel that punches straight through the ship's armored bulkheads like artillery shells. To the engineers, EMALS is the absolute pinnacle of electrical perfection. But to the pilot sitting directly above those screaming flywheels, it is a deadly bet with fate. And when the code fails, this supposedly perfect machine turns into a merciless executioner. June 2020. The USS Gerald R. is in the middle of intense sea trials. Suddenly, the flight deck goes completely dead. The EMALS system enters a total hard lock. For 5 agonizing days, the most lethal warship ever built cannot launch a single aircraft. The public laughed. They called it a billion-dollar paperweight. But behind closed doors, naval engineers weren't laughing. Because this wasn't a mechanical breakdown, it was a terrifying design trap. To understand the nightmare, you have to look at how the power flows. The nuclear reactor is perfectly safe. It just feeds electricity into those massive spinning flywheels. The real danger is hiding in the digital nervous system, connecting those flywheels to the 4 catapults on deck. In the old days of steam, if catapult number 1 blew a pipe, a sailor physically cranked a massive steel valve shut. You isolated the bleed. Catapult 1 was dead, but the other 3 kept launching jets. It was crude, but it was resilient. But EMALS is a tightly woven digital network. To save space and optimize power, the engineers designed all 4 catapults to share the exact same power line. And that is the fatal flaw. When a tiny electrical fault sparked in the system that June, the computer detected the anomaly. But because the digital grid was so interconnected, the algorithm couldn't isolate the infection. It couldn't just amputate one finger. The machine made a cold, flawless, and terrifying calculation. To prevent a rogue power surge from frying the entire multi-billion-dollar launch network, it pulled the plug on everything. A single localized error paralyzed all 4 catapults simultaneously. For 5 days, the crew was trapped in a digital hostage situation. The ship had a perfectly functioning nuclear reactor, squadrons of armed F-35s, and thousands of highly trained sailors. But because a few lines of code could not physically isolate a power fault, the carrier was effectively disarmed. This is the chilling reality of the new era. You no longer lose a supercarrier to an enemy torpedo, a massive fire, or a screaming mechanical failure. You lose it because a perfectly functioning algorithm decides that the safest course of action is absolute paralysis. You are sitting in the cockpit. The engine is screaming. Every single muscle in your body is locked tight. You have braced yourself for that familiar, violent catapult surge. Then, nothing. A sudden absence. The terrifying feeling of gravity vanishing. You're not being shoved forward into the sky, you're falling but without acceleration. You look out the window. The nose of the F-35 is diving. Below you is the ocean, rushing up fast, impossibly fast. In that split second, you're no longer a warrior. You're just a helpless passenger on a multi-million-dollar machine. That has betrayed you. A Navy pilot's core instinct is never to abandon the aircraft. You are trained to fix problems. You are trained to fly through hell. But you cannot fix a corrupted line of code while falling toward the sea at 100 knots. Tens of thousands of flight hours, skill, raw experience. In this moment, all of it becomes completely meaningless. You are no longer in control. You have exactly 2 seconds, not to be a hero, but to make a choice, to become part of the scrap pile on the seabed, or to yank the handle. Your hand jerks the ejection lever. A violent blast fires right behind your spine. You are launched skyward, and only a few milliseconds later, the $100 million superfighter slams into the water and explodes into 1,000 pieces. 1 microsecond of wrong data. That is the exact price of 1 human life. To survive this digital cliff, American engineers had to create a savior without a heartbeat, the closed-loop control system. With the old steam catapult, once you pressed the launch button, you signed your own death warrant or your freedom. There was no turning back. But EMALS never takes its eyes off the aircraft. Along the rail, hundreds of sensors track the exact position and speed of that 30-ton jet, more than thousands of times every single second. Imagine you're running on a bridge of light. Suddenly, at the 500-foot mark, a section of that bridge completely vanishes. A black hole of energy appears. In that split second, thrust disappears. The fighter jet, moving at 130 knots, is about to plunge straight into the abyss. A human cannot react in time. A simple human blink takes 300 milliseconds. But the silicon brain under the deck spots the error in just 5 microseconds. Before the pilot can even feel the drop, the ship's computer screams a defensive command. Increase power to 120%. Dump all reserve energy. The massive flywheels under the deck are drained to the bone, delivering a precise punch of magnetic force down to the nanosecond level, straight into the F-35's tail. The pilot only feels a light jolt. His heart races. But right after, the nose of the aircraft rockets upward. The stealth fighter rips through the clouds. You have just been saved. Not by the thick durability of steel, but by an American algorithm that outthought death itself. After everything we have seen, software glitches, days spent waiting for repairs, and the ultimate terror in the cockpit, we have to ask, why? Why does the US Navy trade 60 years of mechanical stability for a digital nightmare? Because the old steam catapult is a sledgehammer. It only has one setting, full power. It is perfect for launching heavy steel birds like the F/A-18 into the sky. But the future of warfare is not made of steel. It is made of carbon fiber and artificial intelligence. Look at the next generation of stealth drones, the MQ-25 Stingray. They are thin, lightweight, and fragile. If you use a massive steam catapult on them, the brutal jolt at the start would tear their wings apart before they even clear the deck. You cannot swing a sledgehammer to stitch a wound. EMALS is not a hammer, it is a precision scalpel. 1 minute, it pushes gently and smoothly for a 10,000-pound drone. 3 minutes later, it roars to maximum power and hurls a 60,000-pound fighter into the sky. That absolute flexibility is something steam can never deliver. The US Navy is accepting today's pain, dead systems and sleepless nights fixing code, to buy tomorrow's dominance. They are paying with patience right now so that by 2050, the sky will belong to them. But here's the terrifying new threat: poisoning the algorithm. An adversary doesn't need to break into the mainframe to cause a disaster. They don't need bombs. They just need to feed the sensors noise. A slight, invisible bias in weight detection, and the ship's own brain betrays it. The system isn't broken. It's being lied to. This is not a system failure. This is the price of evolution. Welcome to the age where machines do not just serve humans. They are learning how to protect us at the speed of light. After years of brutal refinement, the algorithms are finally stable. The closed-loop control system has been perfectly tuned. The digital cliffs we once feared have been carefully walled off. We have solved the math behind the electromagnetic field. But in doing so, we have inadvertently opened the door to a terrifying new predator. One that leaves no trace, makes no sound, and cannot be seen by the naked eye. You cannot hack a steam pipe. You cannot send malware into a steel pressure valve. But when you turn the entire launch cycle into a stream of digital data, you turn the world's most powerful aircraft carrier into a target on the network. The EMALS launch system is no longer merely mechanical. It is a tactical network. And when everything is a network, everything can be compromised. We replace the guys who knew how to physically fix a valve with guys who know how to debug code. But in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, when that code fails under attack, do we have enough experts on board to rewrite it in combat? This invisible dependency is our new Achilles heel. The engineers solved the physics of the magnetic wave, but they left us with a chilling question. When the next microsecond nightmare occurs, is it just a random system fault? Or is it a hostile command executed from thousands of miles away? Welcome to the new era of warfare, an age where death does not come from a broken machine. It comes from a line of code that was deliberately activated.